Yes, indeed. An introduction that dramatic can only mean one thing. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Siblings in Design, brought to you in association with the Wellbeing Cognoscenti and RDS. My name is Paul J. Rose. I'm your moderator for this evening. I'm going to bring out your two hosts. They're itching to get started. Sitting in the green room, let's say hello to Icheju and Okchuku. Good evening to you both.
Hello, good evening.
How are you?
Good evening.
Now, I know we're going to be talking about the mind and our space. I know we're going to be focusing on declutter. And I had a story to share about that, which I think your audience might really like. I haven't shared this with you before coming on, so this is going to be news to you as well. But you inspired this, Icheju, from our many conversations about declutter. So my daughter, she's 10 years old, and for the longest time now, her bedroom, which is just big enough for a single bed and a wardrobe, and it's got another built-in wardrobe in there, but she wants a desk. She wants to be able to do her work not at the kitchen table but at a desk, which she can then destroy with her own paints rather than continuing to destroy our kitchen table with slime and all manner of other things. That's a whole other issue. But there was no room. There was simply no room anywhere to install a desk, and we tried the idea of moving furniture or maybe a folding desk to put in the wall or moving things around. Nothing was working. So I thought, hold on, before we actually go spend a whole bunch of money on design, architecture, and going backwards and forwards to IKEA more than any human should have to endure, why don't we start by decluttering the room? Why don't we see what's in here right now that doesn't need to be here anymore? The majority of it being clothes in the wardrobe. So we had a massive turf out, a load of her clothes, a load of my clothes, rearranged things. And by putting a small chest of drawers inside the built-in wardrobe and adding a single drawer to her wardrobe, we got rid of an entire chest of drawers, replaced it with a desk, and this meant that we were able to completely change a child's bedroom for the princely sum of £85. So I'm rather proud of that. So I wanted to say thank you to you for teaching me a little bit more about declutter. It doesn't have to be anything difficult. Just grab a bin bag and get busy. But it was a lot of fun.
That's the first step. That's the first step.
We're talking a lot, no more spoilers. We were talking a lot more about that. But of course, before we do that, we want to bring out a very, very special guest today. Very excited to bring this lady on. Now, I was provided with a bio to introduce her, but if I read the whole thing, well, we'll get to the end of the show, so we don't want to do that. But I just want to tell you a little bit about Josephine Aligwekwe, who's coming out very shortly. She is a certified trainer. She practices integrative. She's an integrative counselor and a life coach, and her professional qualifications include Master's Convergent Psychotherapy, a BSc in Mathematics and Computer Science, PGD Theology and Self-Leadership, a diploma in youth counselor, certified Christian counselor, certified neuro-linguistic programming master practitioner and life coach. I'm out of breath just reading it. Emotional intelligence trainer and coach. The list goes on. This is one impressive guest, ladies and gentlemen. Would you please welcome to the studio the one, the only, Josephine Aligwekwe. Josephine, good evening to you.
Hi, Paul. I don't think I've ever sounded so exciting. Thank you.
It's, you know what, I say to a lot of my clients, because much like you, I work as a coach as well. And I say to my clients, if you're ever feeling a bit, I don't know what I'm doing myself, just imagine you're about to actually go out on stage and write your intro. Write your own intro. And people, wow, I've achieved quite a lot, haven't I? Yes, you have. That's the point. But every once in a while, it's nice to be reminded of it. Like I say, Cheju provided your bio, and it's a book, frankly. You are a book. And I'm sure that we're going to be talking a lot about your achievements and your own thoughts on declutter, because it's all about linking the mind and space, isn't it, Cheju? That's what we're going to be talking about tonight.
That's exactly what we're talking about tonight. So it's a continuous conversation. And in this episode, we'll be talking about clutter, good clutter versus bad clutter, whatever we want to call it, and the relationship between our minds and our space. So we'll be bringing like technical concepts, personal experiences, real-time examples. And that's why Josephine is here to help us delve into that topic. You know, she's an experienced practicing psychotherapist, like you said. And she'll help us shed some light on the psychological connotations of our discourse. So yeah, that's in a nutshell what we're here to talk about today.
It's an awfully big nutshell. Of course, we want you to be part of the conversation. So do get involved. Jump on social media. Those of you watching live, you're very welcome to actually post a comment. We'll see it. And please do make sure you use the hashtag SID. That's obviously siblings in design. SID, hashtag SID, get others involved in the conversation. Give us your questions, give us your comments, let us know that you're watching. Let us know what you want to find out about in future shows. We'll make sure your comments are brought up on the screen. So, who's going to kick us off?
I can start.
I was rather hoping you would. It's kind of how this thing works by now. We're finding the pattern, aren't we?
Yeah, so you know why? I want to start because I want to first, make a declaration that nothing said here is cast in stone, nor are we assuming to be an absolute authority on the subject, but we acknowledge that as a group, as individuals, we're professionals in our own fields, simply because we have had the privilege of learning, of practicing, unlearning, and practicing some more the principles that we share, and in honor of the results we've experienced personally and through the independent clients, our independent clients and collective clients over the years. So for me, when you talk about clutter, it's part of what got me into holistic well-being, as an interior design focus. Because a lot of the time we find people coming to a space where they think that to have an interior designer or an interior space manager talk to them about their space is going to cost them an arm and a leg. They've got to have a budget to talk to someone. You don't have to have a budget to talk to somebody, and you don't necessarily need to wallow in that space of, oh, I'm not creative. I really don't, because the creativity of your space needs to start with you, and that's what the correlation of the mind and the space is. If you're not happy, if you're not functioning within that space where you're at, then you're always going to be looking outside for something to complete you, whereas you're supposed to come out complete from the inside, because it all starts from you. It all starts from your mind. My own example, before I let someone else take on, starting like 6 months into the first, the lockdown in 2020, someone asked me, say, how are you coping? I'm not, how are you coping with this whole, and it kind of got me to acknowledge that my lifestyle sort of prepared me for that season, because I'm one of those people that to holiday for me means shut down, phones off, stay home, focus myself, my spirituality, what's that chatter going on in my head, how do I silence it? That for me is a holiday. So I've got to be in an environment that supports me personally, my lifestyle, because it's not about my guests or visitors or whoever is coming or me going out. It's about me first. And that can be minimal or it could be maximal, whatever it is. It's my style, my comfort, functionality first, So it just got me thinking. I find that a lot of people go on holiday, see something, come back and try and replicate in their home, whether it serves them in the long run or not. And for me, I think it's hereditary. My brother would say, would concur to that. My mom is one person who will not suffer a space that is no longer serving her. As old as she is, she's over 8, almost 80. Mm-hmm. And she will break a wall down if she has to. So long as that space doesn't serve her anymore, it's gone. You will come home and find that the house that used to be in front is now at the back, and the house that was, she would move things around. And so that's the hereditary, part of it. But as the profession continues to evolve, and as we continue to see more clients and help other, more people get themselves intrinsically comfortable and confident in their own space, you find that it's becoming more and more, people are becoming more and more aware of how their well-being is supported first from their immediate environment before, going outside. And so that's just the tone of what we're talking about today. I don't know, Junior, do you want to say something, or Josephine?
I think I'll go last.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to ask a question of Josephine and your thoughts on that. Very, very interesting. You talk about that people go away on holiday and see something and then bring it back. Is that, Josephine, is that particularly dangerous, in that they are essentially falling in love with something which by its very definition is temporary, is something that they're only going to be experiencing for a short period of time, but then bringing it into their home, where it's long term, is unlikely to serve them long time? Is there a bit of a clash going on there?
Well, Paul, I wouldn't call it a clash. The thing is, many a times when we go on holiday, the whole idea is you're going to unwind. You've left all the baggage behind, especially if you take a proper holiday, because sometimes people say they're going on holiday. And peculiar to where I come from in Africa, holiday shopping, which isn't the same thing. But when you really do take a holiday, the whole idea is you want to leave all the stress behind as you move on to another area. Now you get to this other place, it gives you that sense of peace, that sense of keeping reality out. And sometimes, because we have to go back to the stress, to the issues we left behind when we went on holiday, you kind of find yourself wanting to carry that peace with you for as long as you can. And that's kind of what you see when you see people trying to replicate, as Ucheju said. So it's really a case of how long can I keep that alter reality, if I can use that word, instead of my own reality. If I can bring this alter reality into my reality, for whatever time frame that I can hold on to it, would it continue to give me that sense of tranquility I had on the other side? So that's basically what's going on with people.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. And what are your thoughts on what Ucheju's been sharing so far?
Well, I do agree with her. It is quite interesting that we start off not realizing that it's very important that space should be functional, but not just functional. It should be about you. Many a times we kind of get it confused. You're trying to put so many things in at the same time, trying to satisfy so many things without realizing that that's what you're doing. And so at the end of the day, what happens is there's this whole chaos, this whole confusion. It's fantastic when she says that her mom has been able to, get to that point where if it's not working, then it's out the window and let's turn it around to something working. It takes a certain level of, should I say, maturity to realize that we can never satisfy everyone. So the first step is satisfying you. However you deal with you, it kind of projects out to other people. People kind of embrace you based on what you reflect, believe it or not. So many of us don't realize that we are speaking even when we are not speaking. In fact, one of the things I teach is communication. And I always say to my students, do you realize that a home communicates to you? If I might ask the architects and the designers, I'm not an expert there, but I know that if I came into a place, into a home, into a space that hasn't been lived in for a while, you can immediately tell the smell in the place, the way the furnitures would be reacting. So everything's communicating with you, whether consciously or unconsciously. And so as human beings as well, we are communicating. So how you embrace your space, somehow or the other, is communicated to others who are in that space with you. And that's how they are going to also settle into your space with you.
Interesting. Junior, what are your thoughts on that? Oh, you just didn't agree at all? Just decided to leave. Technical issues. Yeah, he said he wanted to go last. I think he wanted to run away.
They come on. Does happen to the best of us at the best of times. So.
It's proper live TV, folks. That's what we're talking about here. We are at the mercy of StreamYard, which, by the way, is a great platform. We have to say that because you've just paid to be here. So well, they really think they should pay you if we're going to actually say it's a good platform. But nonetheless, ordinarily it does work. As always, folks, if you've got questions for Josephine Aligwekwe and indeed Okujuku when he comes back online, there he is. Oh, I don't know what you've done there, but
well, you're online.
Let him in for 5 seconds, and it all kicks off and goes. There you go. Right. Stand still. Right. What did you?
Okay. So, are you saying
you want
places or am I?
No,
you're fine now.
You're fine in the mic. Just stand still. That's all I'm saying. Stand still, and it's fine. What did you want to say? I know you had some thoughts there. What did you want to offer up?
Yes. I think the interesting part, the interesting part of it today is that I think I'll do a lot more listening than talking, and only chip in when my core competence comes through or when it's required. Because here now I'm speaking with the experts when it comes to the non-physical side of things. That said, decluttering is a very interesting aspect of everything, especially bringing it. So the thing is, you can't design without life. You have to be alive first to require design for something. So if before you start going into the technical bit, there's always the emotional, the metaphysical side of things that you have to sort out first. Now, say, if you think the space you are in is uncomfortable, it's one of two things. It's either you are cluttered in the head or cluttered physically. One of the two. There's freedom required. If you're mentally cluttered, then it means that you need to clear your head a bit. Now, what do you do to clear your head? It could be anything. Some people prefer to have water bodies around. Some like to hear the fountain of water going. People like to hear chimes, door chimes. I know my wife loves chimes. Flowers and leaves that rustle, subtle wind, nice solemn music in the background. Anything that channels you to a place of creativity, as opposed to anything that proposes or brings about chaos in your mind.
I think you might have frozen.
That in turn would translate to everything.
Okay, we've got a little bit of a stuttered connection happening from there, June. If you want to try coming back in again, or just staying with us, and we'll carry on talking there. But I'm picking up the gist on what you're saying there.
Okay, I'll change my internet. Yeah. I'll just change it. Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm picking up on there though, HH. I want to come back to you on this point. It's a very interesting point that Junior mentions about how clutter it does start from within the head rather than actually the surroundings. Have you ever found a situation from your own clients whereby they have admitted to you, confessed to you or confided with you that they're not comfortable in their space, that it's not working for them, and you've actually taken a look at their space and thought, it's not the space. It is you. It is something we need to talk about you, and you've taken them perhaps on a more emotional and metaphysical journey rather than simply saying, right, well, let's move that here and move that here and change the colors of the walls. What's your experience when that sort of thing happens? You're nodding in agreement, so clearly this has happened to you.
Yes, that's actually the premise on which holistic design stands on, because it does take into cognizance the spirit, the mind, the body. That's the totality of a person, which is, the wholeness. of one person. It's not just about their space. Usually your space and your mind, they are interchangeable, and they play off each other. Like that's exactly what Junior was talking about, because it's if you've come from a space where you've got what's it called, an auction going on in your mind, and then you have an auction going on in your space, so everything is everywhere. You've come back maybe for the whole week, you've had workout sessions, you've gone for meetings, and you come back and you have, I'm just going to use a bedroom for instance, and you haven't put designated spaces where you can put things that you don't want to immediately put in, to dry clean. You want things that you want to use again before you put them in the wash. You have, different spaces where you're going to do different things. And that's what helps you keep your space away from so much. That's what I call bad clutter.
Mm-hmm.
When you pile it on, and you're already in a space where your mind is not settled, where there's chaos going on in your mind, you're trying to make up your mind make decisions about which school the kids should go to. That's traumatic in itself, because you're looking at children leaving home. That's another part of your psyche that is being affected. You've got a funeral to decide on. My dad just passed at the beginning of this year. So these are things, real life, real-time experiences and examples that I'm giving. Or you've got to help someone in a different state do so. So you've already got an auction going on. What's the right decision for this? What should I do there? What? And then you've gone out, you've seen a client, and then you come home. And everything from the week is all over the place in your room. That's a double whammy. Your head is unclear, your space is unclear, they feed off each other. However, if you had a space for everything, and nobody's telling you how to live, you're going to have to figure out how you live that works for you. But if you had a space where everything goes, and those things are in their right places, you've got a clutter going on in your head because you're taking them one at a time and sorting those things out. You come into your space and your space is already sorted. The first thing you do is you're going to take your clothes off and put them where they should be, because your space is already done. It doesn't have that chaos going on there. You come out of your clutter in your head faster. So that's one is feeding off the other. And that's what it means when you're going holistically. You're looking at someone who says, I want to extend my kitchen. This is not working. I don't have enough space for XYZ. And I've gone in there and I've seen the space that the client wanted to work with. And it's massive. It's actually a massive kitchen. And I take one look at her. I've seen the pictures hanging on the wall. And you know when it's makeup, and you know when it's makeup, you know when it's real. Some people don't do makeup. This particular client was not a makeup person. So from what I saw on the picture and the person looking at me, I knew instinctively that there was something else going on with her that didn't have to do with her space. But it was translating into her space, because then she was dumping stuff. She was hoarding and holding on to things that she didn't need. I mean, her kids were adults. One works in America, doesn't come home all the time. But in the same kitchen, there were little cups of, how kids used to have crayon cups hanging on the walls. They had things dated that far behind. And my first question was, do you have grandchildren? No. So why are these things still here? And then we discovered that there were some cartons and stuff on the shelves that were empty, that she thought things were in them, and the husband thought things were in them, but someone clearly had taken things out of them. So by the time the clutter was done with, we found out that not only did her kitchen serve them properly, but we could see the walls again, and she could actually breathe, and she walks into the kitchen and goes, "What did you do?" I said, "No, nothing. We just cleared it out." "You cleared? What did you clear? What and there you go. Save you 20,000 pounds. You don't need a new kitchen. You don't even need a new cabinet, because it takes about that much to do an extension. And you haven't even thought about your cabinetry and what you're going to put, the breakfast table. So now she had enough space to put a breakfast table if she wanted. She had enough. She didn't even need to, at the end of the day. All she needed to was buy some bar stools for the end of the. So it's all part and parcel. The personal aspects of what caused her dysfunction, I can't disclose, but it all stems from that. The inside of you, what's happening with you, tends to spew out onto your environment. But if you were able to have help in getting your environment cleared up in a way that, because you're so busy thinking about what's going on here, you're not going to be putting so much attention on what's going on out there when you don't live alone, especially. So you might have put things away in the cupboard. Someone else has come home, brought it out, and you're tired. Like, you know what? I'm not picking up after anyone. But if everything has a space and has a place, and you're able to talk, or you have someone come in and talk to everyone in the home, and they know, okay, mom is really suffering, we need to help her, then they put things away. When you don't ask for the help, and most families see the mother as the homekeeper, so it's almost like it's her job to make the house look nice. You're the one who doesn't want to see sand on the floor, so you clean it up. But if you if someone else comes from, and that's a professional who knows what they're doing, comes in and says, oh guys, you need to do this here, you need to put that, they would quickly listen, and they would do it, and find that the person who in this case had the problem, was able to then take time for herself and deal with the clutter in her mind to help her well-being. All of these things are interrelated. You can't have one without the other, because it all starts from you, the person. So that's the correlation based on what Junior was saying. And then in terms of architecture, let me put it this way. You see a building from the outside. It's got steel, it's got glass, it's got, also the first thing that comes into your mind, industrial. When you walk into the building, there's an expectation of what you want to see from the outside. Or you see a Victorian house with all the trappings, white picket fence and all them. And then you imagine someone lives here who is homely. If you were to walk into that kind of an environment and what you see is glass, stainless steel cabinets and glass, there's a disconnect right there and then once you walk through the threshold. And what you saw from the outside is not what you meet when you get on the inside. Having said that, there are still spaces that work that way, because we might walk to we go to the slum, for instance. They call it the slum. Go through a street that the road isn't tarred and it's dirt road and all of that, and the environment doesn't really look very good. But then you walk into the person's space, they come through the front door, and they've managed to contain themselves into a place that works for them, that is palatable, that is comfortable, that's warm, that doesn't have all the trappings of the coldness that you find on the outside. So it's all left to personal interpretation, is what I'm trying to say. That means your mind has to be involved in where you are, regardless of what the environment outside of you, dictates. It has to be about you.
Wonderful. I mean, it's an old saying, isn't it? Tidy desk, tidy mind. I'm sure it extends to an entire home. Josephine, obviously there's a massive amount of psychology going in here when someone actually decides that their space is not working for them. And if they're coming from a place of clutter, is it quite possible there's just so much clutter in their own mind that they're just not aware of it? Sometimes we need a mirror to be held up to us, to, as the teacher says, someone needs to say, do that here, do that there. You're not going to do it for yourself. What needs to happen as a trigger for these people? What tends to happen where they finally are able to turn around and say, this doesn't work anymore, and I don't think it's this. There's something needs to happen for me. What's been your experience of that? What does that awakening for people look like?
Well, not necessarily an experience. I'll just give you a bit of I guess, a psychological background as to how we function as humans. Everything, absolutely everything. Right now, you're breathing. You just lifted that cup up and taken a drink. Everything starts with a thought. Believe it or not.
Thirst in my case, but yeah, no, I thought I was thirsty, so absolutely.
Sometimes you're conscious of a thought going on, and many a times we're actually unconscious of the thoughts that are going through our mind. Thoughts are very fast when they occur, and it is a thought that would lead to a feeling, an emotion, which subsequently leads to an action, a behavior. So when Uche is talking about clutter with regards to the lady, one of the things you want to know about us as human beings is that as much as we say it, we don't actually embrace change. We don't realize that life evolves, all right? Just the same way your space too evolves with you. So she said a few things there that, you know, purely as a psychotherapist, it just went ding in my head. You know, the woman is holding on to cups. It is her fear, you know, she's hoarding. What is hoarding really? It's the fear of letting go. It's the fear of change. It's the fear of allowing yourself evolve to the next stage in your life. So you're holding on. Where's that coming from? It's a thought. And the thought is generating something unconsciously. So you're not consciously thinking about it until someone like an Uche comes in, or another person, or you watch a movie, or someone says something, etc., and then a trigger goes off. For some people, that's all it takes. For some other people, they might need to come in somewhere and someone begins to point out to them that this is really what is going on with you unconsciously. So, which is why many a times, you know, we like to say to people, you need to reflect. And when we talk about reflection, we're not talking about surface reflection. It's reflection and being willing to go back all the way to when you were a child. You know, go back to those experiences you had. Go back to those boogeyman days, you know, the things that scared you, the things you weren't too happy, that in reality you've actually not dealt with. And you've just locked it in a little room without realizing that those things have an impact on how you're relating currently. So what you tend to find is that, you know, sometimes people are actually acting out, they're playing out, but they don't realize it. And it starts to show in their environment. You start to see it coming out in their environment, which is very right. If in your mind, you're kind of organized, yeah, you would see it in that person's immediate environment. You will see it in the way the person deals with their immediate environment in terms of design work. You will see it with the way they run their life, the way they manage themselves. All these things play out. But remember, the key thing is it's a thought. And every one of us, consciously or unconsciously, we're always thinking. You know, if I lift my hand, there might be someone out there that a thought is going through their mind without them realizing. Maybe this gesture reminds them of something. And that could even immediately connect unconsciously with that person to say that, I don't really like how she speaks, or I don't really like that about her. But the person doesn't realize that it's actually coming from a thought. And that thought is being pushed by stuff that we've taken in genetically and environmentally. And so it translates in everything that you see. Why would one person say to you, oh, I love white? And another person says, oh, I can't stand white. I need loads of colors around me. It's all stemming from somewhere. So I think, you know, moving with a little bit with what Uche said, and also taking a bit from what Junior said, I think one of the things that tends to cause a lot of difficulty for people to declutter is the inability to understand that space should evolve. Our lives evolve. Change is inevitable. So you don't fight change, you embrace it. And even today, this is what we're seeing with COVID, with the pandemic, the inability of people to embrace where we are today. So there's a lot of fear, and that's translating in different ways. So it's understanding that, spaces evolve, you evolve, change is inevitable. So if this is not working, what do I need to do? I think that's what I kind of love about what she said about her mom, the ability to look at the space and say, hey, guess what? It served its purpose, time to move on and be able to move on.
I like the idea of an 80-year-old woman knocking walls down at a whim. I think that's just, does she have her own sledgehammer? Do you check in regularly enough? I think that's important. I think Junior should be getting around there a little bit more often. If your mum's just knocking walls down when she feels like it. Some of those might be load bearing. I think she needs to check in with you a little more often. Josephine, fascinating answer. Thank you. I feel like I should be lying down on the couch and booking in for 6 more sessions and spending a lot more money, but we can come to that at another time. Junior, Uche touched on the idea of architecture, although she did actually say architecture and put air quotes around it. And I thought, why are you doing that? That's a bit mean. It's a real thing. Obviously, Junior, how does this... I'm just wondering how it would actually work from your line of work, because obviously from a different perspective, someone comes to you looking at a build, they're looking at a particular project, and it's become all too obvious that where they are, it just needs a little bit of decluttering, that actually they don't need to build, they don't need to extend. Do you tell them, hold on, slow down, you don't need to be doing that? Or do you say, well, actually, what we're going to do is we are going to change your space, but when we do that, let's make it work better for you? At what point does the architect jump in here and utilize a little bit of psychology, or do you just kind of stay a little bit more pragmatic and just stay on project? What's your take on that?
Well, as an architect, first of all, you're the master builder. And to be the master builder, you must understand the entire process, the thought process, the psychology, the humanity, the reason, the scope, the point of the client's or the person's need. The need is the reason for the person coming to you in the first place. Mm-hmm. So you listen to what the problems are, analyze the problems, and more often than not, you listen to get details as opposed to listening to get a brief. Now, details would be the sense that most clients don't know what they want. They're probably just complaining about what they don't want. More often than not, what they don't want is what they should be having, and vice versa. So your job, or my job, is to say, well, that couch that you hate so much is hated so much because it's in the wrong location. If we turn it this way, then it becomes a couch, no longer an obstacle. And when that's done, they're like, okay, wow, I didn't see it coming that way. Now, this is more of Uche's forte. In my own field, the first thing I ask clients is, how much storage space do you require? Because if I've learned anything over the years, is that the more space you give people, the more storage they would have. And the more storage people have, the more things they find to store. And the more things they find to store, the more clutter they acquire.
I love that.
So as long as we age and we keep growing old, believe it or not, as you get older, you have this need to hold on to things that bring back nostalgia. Okay? There's this nostalgic feeling you have. Oh, that crayon cup was my son's crayon cup, and my grandson used it, and the great-grandson must use it, so we're going to keep that cup for 80 years. And then, I want a store in my kitchen. There has to be a store in the kitchen, because I have to store all the stuff from my children's weddings, and I want to buy 10 bags of rice and 20 tubers of yams and, 5 bags of beans. And, it's a pandemic. You never know what's going to happen. They might shut down the stores tomorrow. And people always have beautiful excuses why they should store stuff. Now, I ask the simple question: do you need to have all these things? What if these things get spoiled? What if you store on a quarterly basis? What if you store on a monthly basis? Are you afraid of inflation? Are you worried about the fact that a bag of rice may be 5 times the price 8 months from now? So you would rather have a mini store in your house. Now, apart from the food items, what about the things that you get from weddings, the souvenirs? What about the children's boxes from every time they travel? Like, Uche buys a box whenever she travels. I'm sure, but the thing is, she gives out some things as well, so she doesn't have as much clutter. But there are people who buy these things whenever they travel and don't give them out. So they want 3 box rooms, they want 4 stores, they want 2 living rooms, they want 2 staircases, they want every bedroom to have its own bathroom, its own closet, and a box room attached. Just because they have this need to keep storing. So I say to them, let's design your problem out. If you don't have a large store, then you will not be tempted to store too many things. What's the function of the store? It's to keep away things that you're going to use soon, not things you're going to use 5 years from now. Okay? We have different types of storage that can add to the beauty of your space. It doesn't have to be some cellar somewhere or some guard room somewhere that you never get in because you're afraid of a cockroach. That might be under the cabinet.
Oh, lost that. He was saying some good things too, and I particularly loved the idea.
It's so
that's so annoying, isn't it? But
so
I particularly love the point of providing less storage, because yes, the more cupboard space you've got, the more you will fill it with junk, because we are hoarders. Well, there's a lot of people are hoarders. Caleb had something to say about that. Let me just bring that up on screen. Oh, his comment should cut us because Junior just moved away. There we are. Letting go is really a problem to declutterize. Now, recently I became a fan, and Uche, you and I have talked about this. I became a fan of Marie Kondo, who is a very, very simple way of looking at ways to declutter it. You grab an item and you simply ask the question, does this give me joy? And if the answer is no, you throw it away. And I've become quite bullish about this. My wife, on the other hand, not so sure. It's a little bit harder for her, I understand, letting go. And of course, when you've got the children's stuff and let's hold on to their first art project that they did 10 years ago because it'll be such a lovely memory to hold on to. Well, yes, it will, but realistically, the only time you're ever going to look at it is when you're having another clear out. But yeah, fine. I want to go around the room. How do you let go of stuff? Josephine, let's start with you. How do you let go?
Well, I like space. I love order, and I don't like things. If I haven't used things for 6 months, a year, it's out of the window. I guess maybe in a way I could be described as a little bit extreme sometimes. I don't like clutter at all. In my head, in my space. I can't think if things are not in order. So if I've got a wardrobe, for example, with clothes, I'm the typical person that once a year I go through my wardrobe, and anything I actually haven't used in the last 6-7 months really means that I didn't need it, and I'm really hanging on to it for sentimental reasons. And then I guess also being a spiritual person, I constantly ask myself, there's someone out there who probably needs this far more than I do. Why don't I bless that person with it while it's still in good condition? Because one of the things you need to also understand is that sometimes when you tell people to declutter, they assume it needs to be in such a bad state before they let it go. If I'm going to let it go, I want to let it go so another person can get some years out of it, you know. So that kind of, my kids are always teasing me about that. You know, they go, Mom, once you just see a slight wash in an outfit, it's time to let it go, you know. I'm kind of like that. So yeah, 6-7 months and you haven't really used it, you need to ask yourself if you're ever going to use it.
Yeah, and you're not. And then of course you get some people that they hold on to clothes that used to fit them, and maybe they don't. Maybe they put on a few pounds. Maybe
inspiration.
You know what? I'm going to hold on to that outfit because when I lose the weight, I'm going to put that on. And yet, what's going to happen is one of two things: A, you're not going to lose the weight, or B, congratulations, you've lost the weight. And what do you do to celebrate? You buy new clothes. Get rid of the stuff. You don't need it, ladies. I'm talking to you. All right. This is my bugbear. I'm just saying, if my wife's watching this at some point, she would be like, are you talking about me again? I'm like, yes. Yes, I am talking about you. This is something that happens. But I think what's very interesting there, Josephine, is this notion that declutter means getting rid of junk. And it's that definition of junk. Junk doesn't mean that something is bad, that something is worn to the point of no longer being practical or useful. It just means that you don't need it anymore.
Which is what I call the good and bad clutter.
Yeah. Why do you need to hold on to a book once you've read it? If you're going to read it again because you enjoyed it, maybe, but the majority of books, you've read them once. Get rid of them. Pass them on. Take them to a charity shop. Donate them to a library. Give them to a family member who you think, I think you'd enjoy reading that. You know, it's just stuff you don't need anymore. I'm a massive fan of car boot selling. Uche, you and I have talked about this. I've written a book on the subject myself. There's so many ways you can get rid of things. Charity shops need stuff all the time. Okay, you want to talk about paying it forward. Charity shops need stuff. And if you think, oh, but hang on, this is actually a really, really nice piece. I don't want to just pass it on. Sell it. There are plenty of websites. There are apps like vinted.com. You can sell your clothes on, make a bit of money as you're decluttering. That's a win-win. There's even more joy going around. Imagine being able to not only declutter, but actually utilizing the money you've made to buy that new piece that's going to transform the room. Or to actually hire the likes of Uche or Junie to actually come in and do something amazing for your space with stuff that, how can you call it junk if it made you money? It's not junk. So I think it's just very, very important to actually make that distinction. Yeah. Junie, I want you to say things before you lose the connection again. You went outside. Maybe you were shooting a horror movie behind everyone's back. I don't know. You're back in again. We're asking the question, how do you let go of things? What's your method for letting go of stuff you just think, I don't need
it? So I think I'm a totally different breed because it's very easy for me to let go of things. You're probably asking me the wrong question because I let go of things easier than I can even imagine. Now, if I bring it to my work or to my interaction with people, then letting go becomes a process, which is a process that has to do with some questions that require answers. Does it serve any purpose? Now, is that purpose valuable? If those answers are yes and yes, then you probably want to keep that item or that relationship. If it doesn't serve any purpose or value of purpose, then you should be taking it out. You shouldn't think about it. Or one of my favorite quotes is, I'm not afraid, there's nothing I am afraid to lose because I always gain stuff. So you need to let go of some things for other things to come into your life. You have to clear out your fridge to put new stuff inside the fridge. You have to clear out your box to put something else in it. You have to clear out your mind for better thoughts
fresher ideas to come into your mind. So for me, I look forward to getting rid of things, especially mentally.
Mm.
Now, on the other hand, I'm not very good with um, changing stuff. I like the old time religion. I like I like things that are tested and trusted. If things are working a particular way, okay, I want to modify it a bit. I don't want to change it all together. I don't do knee jerk things. So it may be boring to some people, but I consider it pragmatic. So getting rid of stuff mentally, emotionally, psychologically, as the case may be, is an exercise I look forward to.
Nice.
In the home, in the house, with pieces and things. My wife is the more she and Mitchell, like I say, are partners in crime. They change things every day. And half the time I'm like, can we enjoy some of these things for a year or two? You know, and so we get the benefit of it. But what do I know? Hey, they are the interior designers.
I'll
Thank God they don't have any access to changing the foundation of the house, every other week. You know, so that's the thing.
That
So
sounds like
yeah,
a happy
it's easy for
discussion.
me,
For a much longer period.
and I hope people also do that.
Thanks, Junior. That's a great answer. I love the idea of looking forward to a declutter. I love them. I love a good clear out. I find it incredibly cathartic. And I'm hoping actually that's going to answer Caleb. He's followed up. I must confess, he says, forgive me. He wants you to Can you forgive Kate? You always did. You did last time. I am a clutterist. It's difficult to let go. Do you have any pointers? There's one. Making an event, Caleb. Just go, right, today we're going to clear out there. Just choose an area. I always choose, today I'm going to clean out a section of the loft, a drawer, a cupboard, a wardrobe. Don't put your hand in here. It's your show, OJ. What do you want to say?
I want to just buttress what everything that both Junior and Josephine have said, just to help Caleb as well, and anybody else who might be fighting with that whole idea and concept. I'm a book person. So if you're going to give away books and stuff like that, it might be difficult for me. Even though I give away designer bags, shoes, whatever, I may have just used it once. It really doesn't matter. The whole idea for me is like, like we are, from our spiritual standpoint, it's the Bible, that's our blueprint. Mm-hmm. All things are permissible, but not all things are profitable. Yes, it might be okay for you to have it, but how, like Junior said, how is it serving you right here and now at this point? What does it do for you today? And is it there to do something for you tomorrow? And like you said, Paul, yeah, you lose the weight. You try the clothes on and it fits. It might go out, it might be out of fashion. And then now you can't wear it anymore anyway. So give it to someone then when it was still in fashion who can use it then and hope for something else to inspire you to lose weight, It's important to just do things in moderation. That's that's the way we were brought up, and that's what I believe as professionals we're learning to do on a daily basis. Marie Kondo style is, if it doesn't serve, throw it out. You might throw it out, and then 3 days later you're depressed because that thing you threw out was your father's favorite thing that you kept, that you thought. So at the end of the day, it's a concept of what really serves you spiritually and mentally, and then how does it serve your space aesthetically. Yeah. Those are the main and the key things to question yourself about. That's when you make the distinction between good clutter and bad clutter. Bad clutter is just there. It's just filling up the space with a lot of junk that's not necessarily profitable for you. It might be that it was an expensive thing from John Lewis. So what? It doesn't serve you right now, but you talk about clutter to a mother with a newborn baby, for instance. She is going to need all that good clutter. The number of feeding bottles, the number of, little things they need to wash the teeth and do all those things. It is clutter to someone who comes in that wants to live a minimalist lifestyle. But trust me, there are times when that's not going to work for you. We just need to.
That's very interesting.
We need to get to a point where beyond the acquisition of things, because that's all they are, the ability to be detached intrinsically from them, enough to let them go without distressing yourself.
I love this concept of good clutter and bad clutter, and the way you described it, that someone walking into a house that's a mess. Well, it's a mess. It's clutter to you, but to the person who needs all that stuff, it's not. Yep. So, is there really such a thing as good clutter? Can we even use that word clutter? Because to me, clutter it's a negative term. It suggests stuff that you don't need, but therefore, if you need it, is it really clutter?
It is clutter if it doesn't serve, if they don't serve together. That's the way I see it.
I think that it's.
So let me
so Junior's breaking down. Junior, you go next, and then Josephine will come to you.
Okay, so what I was saying is, you have to at some point stick to the law of averages. The law of averages would mean that you have to balance things out. It doesn't matter what space you work in. So we have 4 people. There's a new mom with a 2-day-old baby with all the bottles and all of that. There's a way she can keep stuff that would not be bad clutter. A minimalist from somewhere in Scandinavia or Japan or something comes into that space and will not have to keep bottles on his way to his bedroom or her bedroom. An African traditionalist who wants to worship his stick gods or whatever has it in the corner somewhere and also wouldn't trip over anybody's items. So the law of averages would be that there are things that have to be a particular way that wouldn't necessarily obstruct your physical movement or obstruct your visual appreciation as well.
Yep.
So if a nursing mother decides that the only important thing in her life are those feeding bottles, and they have to be everywhere in the house, then there is a problem. Because if she had sextuplets, for instance, it means she'll be out of the dumps. So I think balance is everything.
Yep.
Temperance is everything. Stick in the middle, a little to the left, a little to the right, making sure that everybody's interests at some point, is catered for. If you listen to music with the bars range at 10 and treble at 0, I'm not sure you'll get the quality of sound that you want to get. Everything hovers there and about around -1 +1 +1 -1, to get the better sound effect. Except, of course, they're trying to balance sounds from other areas where they need to increase one over the other. So that's what I think where that's concerned. I believe if we balance things out, then we can all exist in a space with good clutter, because we might have to discuss this further and break down what good clutter is and what bad clutter is. I don't think we have the time today to do so.
Well, there's our next show taken care of anyway, Uche, if you're struggling for ideas, but we'll get to that in a moment. Josephine, what did you want to say about that?
Okay, so I'm not going to get into the mix on good clutter and bad clutter because it's not really my field of expertise. However, as an illiterate in this field,
harsh term. We'll run with it. Fine, you can't read. Go on.
Clutter is anything that hasn't been kept in a tidy manner. So yes, the items might be required. Like I believe that's what Junior is trying to say. The items might be required, but then the person who requires those items, how are you actually organizing those items? Because it has a lot to say too. about your psychological frame at that particular time. But like I said, this is not my field, so I'm not going to get into them. They do their good and their bad clutter. But what I did want to say from a psychotherapist perspective was on the declutter, and a little bit from what Caleb was saying, the inability to want to let go. If you remember when we were kids, children, every child, at least each and every one of you, we've been children at some point. One of the first set of things we're taught in toddler stages is how to share. And that's because innately, as human beings, we're selfish. Your first instinct is to hang on. If you watch two kids in a park or anywhere, and the child was playing with something and drops it, the minute another child picks it up, it automatically becomes an item of importance. And the child who had stopped playing will automatically rush back, and then a fight or something will ensue. And this is what we see too with the inability to let go. You're not holding on because you need it. You're not holding on because it's serving you in any particular way. But why do I want someone else to have it? It's an unconscious thing. So, you also have to look at, when you were younger, how did you really deal with sharing? How do you deal with sharing? How comfortable are you to let go for others to use your stuff without suddenly feeling like, no, I must have that stuff right back because it's mine. It's mine, not necessarily because you need it. So just, something to think about, because for us on this side, when we're in therapy with people, we're picking on all those little things. Why can't you let go? Why do you find it difficult to let another person have that stuff? What is it really doing for you? Like Junior would say, what is it really doing for you? So just thought I should throw that into the mix as well. I think you're on mute, Paul.
It was going to happen eventually, wasn't it? I was
now
clear.
It's your turn.
Left myself. Yeah, all right, fine. The professional looks a little bit silly. There we go. Do you know what? I'm getting ready to wrap up the show. We've run a little bit over. I think it's okay, but we did get a comment in from Laurel Singleton. Now, I must admit, I don't know what this means. I'm hoping one of you. Does it mean anything to any of you in a professional capacity? No, you've been hacked. That's fine. We'll leave it there. Laurel, if you meant well, come back another time and use words rather than simple acronyms. I want to say a massive thank you to our guest, Josephine. It's been absolutely brilliant. We've learned so much about ourselves and each other, and the 3-year-old toddler that's still desperately looking to find his rattle, which is hid somewhere under my bed. We'll get there eventually. I'm 51 now, so getting closer. So thank you very much indeed. Hope you've enjoyed yourself. To Uche and Junior, despite your technical issues, it's been lovely to have you here, both Junior. Uche, buy him a laptop for Christmas. I think he needs it. That's clear. Yeah. Or just a better router. One of those things, it's, you've got a week to sort that out. So that's
a good gift. Yep.
Good gift. I know. He's lit up now. He's appreciating that idea straight away. Oh, yes, please. If you're being generous, why not? You can put it in his decluttered space. Look at that thumbs up. You owe me, Junior. All right. If you get a laptop, you owe me big. All I'm saying. All right. There we go. Guys, thank you much. Do we have a subject for our next show, Uche, or is it still very much in the works? What are your thoughts?
Well, it's very much in the works, but it's also a continuation of what we're talking about today, because it's all about well-being. At the end of the day, we're going to be asking questions like, what is your style? How do you know what your style is? How are you at home? Do you feel energized and ready to conquer, or wake up ready to go back to bed? More often than not, remember, it's about your well-being. You can't give anyone a ride if your tank is empty. And that goes to everyone in your home too. Put on your mask first, and then you can help someone else. So that's where we are. We're going to be sat here talking about this, teaching, educating, and sharing, so that everyone gets to a point of wholeness. That's the whole purpose. So yeah, we will communicate the next topic, but it's going to be right about the same concept of well-being and your space and clutter.
Fantastic. Well, thanks to all of you. Just got quick time to say Ugo is waiting for the books.
Nah, it's not happening.
It's not happening. It's not happening, Ugo.
Not happening.
Just keep coming back and enjoying the show. That's what it's all about. Guys, a pleasure as always. Thanks once again to our guest. Of course, Merry Christmas to you all. We'll be seeing you again in 2022. Who knows what January has in store for any of us? Certainly not the government, but let's not get into that right now. For now, I want to say thank you very much indeed, and we'll see you again real soon. If you're watching this on catch up, feel free to leave a comment, a question, whatever. We will make sure that we address it in our next show. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much indeed. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.